Hi again, everybody. I'm Harry Donahue, and welcome to another edition of Inside Golf. Coming up on today's show, we're going to take a look at the recent Philadelphia Open. It's a Golf Association of Philadelphia event, and it's open to both local pros and amateurs. It was held at Philadelphia Country Club. Also coming up, another Rothman Institute tip from Dr. Matt Ramsey. He specializes in wrist and elbows and shoulders. And if you're like me, you know what the aches and pains are all about from those joints. And Dr. Ramsey is going to give us a tip or two on how to alleviate your pain. And also this week, a human interest story involving Ed Yost. Ed is in his 90s now, but back in the 50s, he was a handyman at Flowertown Country Club. In fact, he built the bedroom for Gary Player, who worked at Flowertown when he first came to this country from South Africa. And our Teed Off panel takes a look at some characters they've met through the game of golf. It's all coming up. A full-packed show on this week's edition of Inside Golf. Inside Golf, now celebrating its 20th season, is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirstteephiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.
Along with being stewards of the game of golf, your local PGA professional wears many hats.
We are teachers.
We are players.
We are managers.
We are merchandisers.
And community leaders.
But we all wear one badge.
PGA professionals are well-trained experts who work hard to share the joy of golf with our neighbors for over 90 years. To find your local PGA professional, visit phillypga.com. Brought to you by the Philadelphia section of the PGA.
We are the experts in the game and business of golf.
Success requires hard work. No way around it. Realize timing is key. Be willing to push yourself. Stay in control. Trust technology to support you. My father once said, "Doesn't matter what you do in life, just be the best at it."
The Open Championship is the deepest and most talented field in Philadelphia tournament golf. This year's edition visited these historic grounds at Philadelphia Country Club. Filled with the area's top Philly PGA section professionals and Golf Association of Philadelphia amateurs, the Open remains one of, if not the, most difficult tournament on the calendar to win. The championship started in 1903. It has been played every summer since, save two during the World War II years. Some of golf's biggest names, Tommy Armour, George Fazio, R.J. Sigel, to name a few, have all claimed victory. This July, Philadelphia Country Club, a GAP founding member, hosted the Open for the 5th time. And like its last appearance in 2004, the Gladwin Club was the stage for another historic event. The champion was Matt Matari of Saucon Valley Country Club, who led start to finish. But it was that start that put Matari in historical relevance. He began his march with a Philly CC course record 8 under par 63 in round 1. Not only was it a course record, but it is also the lowest 18-hole score posted by an Open winner. And in the end, it was that score that helped him cruise to a 2-stroke victory.
I like you. I feel like my resume has a bunch of runner-ups and top 5s and not enough of the big hardware, so it feels great to bring this one home.
Matari opened the final round with 9 consecutive pars to make the turn with a 5-shot lead. Bogeys on 10 and 11 slowed him down a little bit, but Matari righted the ship with pars on 12, 13, and 14. Some of those par tries of the testy variety. A bogey on 15 and another on 16 gave the field some hope and cut Matari's advantage to 2 strokes. but the powerful Matari carded a pair of run-of-the-mill pars on the final 2 closing holes to secure his biggest career victory. On the final hole, he found the fairway and center of the green to ensure he would be the one raising the John J. McDermott Open Trophy.
The pins were a little tougher today. The greens dried out a little bit, so it wasn't easy to have all those licks. I mean, yesterday I had a ton of licks at birdie inside of 15 feet. Today I might have had 3. So it was just, and it wasn't like I was hitting bad shots. It was set up tough, and the course kind of fought back a little bit.
The win was the 8th in a row for an amateur at the Open. Matari joins former professional Ralph Hutchinson as the only Sauk and Valley Country Club reps to earn Open hardware. Hutchinson took the 1954 Open. Matari was quick to credit caddy Ted Decker, aka the Bear, for guiding him through the 36 holes.
He's a great kid, great company, and helped a ton with the green. I mean, this is a place where you need someone who can kind of direct you on the green, and it makes a huge difference on some putts.
There was a tie for low professional honors. Brian Burkstall, Shawnee Country Club's Director of Instruction, and Tony Perla, an assistant professional at Philadelphia Cricket Club, tied for second in low pro accolades at 2 under. Burkstall posted the number first before Perla rolled in this birdie on 18 to force a split. So congratulations to the 31-year-old Matt Matari, a victory well earned. Reporting from Philadelphia Country Club for the Golf Association of Philadelphia, I'm Marty Emino.
The Philadelphia PGA and Rothman Institute continue to help you play better golf and stay healthy by bringing you tips from the experts. Here to help us deliver these tips is PGA professional John Dunnigan and Dr. Matthew Ramsey, Chief of Shoulder and Elbow Surgery at Rothman Institute.
Thanks, Phila. Dr. Ramsey, can you explain some of the most common injuries that you're seeing in your practice?
So I'm a shoulder and elbow surgeon, so I primarily see shoulder and elbow problems. So after back injuries, the most common golf-related injury is elbow injury, so I see a fair amount of that. Most commonly is what's called golfer's elbow, which is an overuse tendonitis on the inside of the elbow, and equally prevalent is tennis elbow, which is on the outside of the elbow. So they're named funny, but they both occur in golf.
I see golfers with amazingly weak grips. They put their hand under the golf club, like so, and it opens the face. And does that have anything to do, when they have got to try to square this wide open club face, does that have anything to do with putting their elbows in risk for injury?
So if you look at a weak grip, so when you have a weak grip, so kind of palm up more, it flattens off your wrist, which loads the tendons on the outside of the elbow on the lead arm, and then that requires you to kind of soften the grip, have a weak grip here as well. So when you're preloaded and you're coming through your golf swing, you're tensioning the tendons on the outside of the elbow more than you would be if you had a stronger grip, where your wrist is a little cupped and it takes a little tension off. And so grip is an incredibly important thing, particularly for the lead arm of a golfer. And then obviously the way you hit the ball. Fat shots, regardless of how you grip the club, are going to put more tension and more stress on the tendons, both on the inside and outside of the elbow.
Great. So if we give the folks one key about taking their hands to the club, put your club vertical to the ground where the leading edge is pointing straight at you. Go lead arm first, fingers perpendicular to the shaft, and then the thumb is going to go just to the right of the leading edge of the club face, top dead center. And that's going to give us a little hot dog right here. We're going to put this bun between the thumb and the heel of the hand and cover that hot dog in a bun, just like this. And that way, you'll get your grip right every time. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey. And folks at home, we hope this helps you play better golf.
I'm standing in an office on the second floor of the Flowertown Country Club in Montgomery County. It's an office now, but more than 50 years ago, it was a bedroom to one of golf's greatest. Gary players slept here. That story, next on Inside Golf.
I didn't know much about golf before first day. My best part about putting is getting it in that hole. The first year my driving was keep going off to the sides, and then now I keep it nice and straight.
I thought like getting that small ball in such a small target, I thought that was pretty awesome.
My game's pretty good, it's improved.
The first tee of Greater Philadelphia, where golf is more than a game.
Welcome back to Inside Golf. Today we're at Flowertown Country Club in Flowertown, Pennsylvania, Montgomery County. And we're taking a look back at what used to be here. Who better to have with us than Ed Yost? Ed Yost, believe it or not, worked here at Flowertown Country Club when George Fazio ran the place back starting in the 50s, Ed, right? You were how old at the time?
I was like 27, 26.
And George Fazio was, of course, a big-time golfer. I mean, here's a guy that in 1950 went to a playoff out at Merion in the U.S. Open, losing to the great Ben Hogan.
Ben Hogan.
But George was a local guy who grew up in the Norristown area.
Right.
Prominent golfer. But let's talk about Ed Yost and George Fazio and Flowertown, and in particular, George brought here back in the late 50s a young kid, he was 22 at the time, by the name of Gary Player from South Africa. And you remember when Gary arrived on the scene, huh? Tell us about that.
I do. George, my brother was the manager of the clubhouse, and it was the old Sunnybrook. This new addition wasn't there. So he brings this young kid in, 22 years old, and we built him, my brother and I built him a little privacy room in the locker room upstairs, so he have some privacy. And he would go across the street with the Flowertown Diner.
Which is no longer there on Bethlehem Pike, right? I don't think it is.
No, it's not there. It's a doctor's complex.
Okay, sure. So Gary worked here and actually lived on the second floor of the Tudor Clubhouse here at Flowertown.
That's right. He was here for at least 7, 8 months, I think.
Okay, because I know later on he moved up the road a little bit to Bucks County, right?
Langhorne,
George ran that place
George owned that, from what I understand. He owned that course, so it went. And he was instrumental in getting him a job at Langhorne Country Club so he could qualify
for the PGA
Tour.
Well, let's talk about, okay, so you were telling me before we went on air about you were the starter, and when things got maybe a little slow, George Fazio and Gary Player would head right over to the first tee, and what would happen?
Drop some balls and start hitting balls down to the second tee, and I would get a basket.
Were they hitting driver?
They were hitting. I asked them. I didn't know much about golf then. I was a young kid. I asked them, what are you hitting? I knew at different clubs. And they both were hitting 4 irons. They were hitting those about 190.
Okay.
I had a basket.
And never moved?
I didn't have to move very far. I'd go over here and I'd go over there. And those balls were bouncing and I'd catch them on a bounce.
Now, Gary Player went on to win, several majors. He traveled the world. He's probably the first international golf ambassador. But he's called the Black Knight because he always dresses in black. Awesome. Did he dress in black then when he was 22?
Black jersey, black trousers, black shoes.
How about that? Let's fast forward just a year ago. You're up at Skip Pack, which is up in Route 73. A friend of the show of Inside Golf is Skip Pack Golf Club. And tell the story, what happened.
I'm up there with Bobby Shepard and his sister. I went up there, I usually go up on a Thursday. As I'm driving by the driving range, I see all the lights on. And I said to my lady friend, wonder what's going on there. When I got inside the little bar restaurant, the owner said to me, Eddie, Gary Player's down there. Down where? Down the driving range. He's giving a demonstration for a fundraiser for his grandson. You're kidding. Yeah, he's really down there. It's at night, dark. All the lights are on the driving range. I jump in the golf cart. We go down there, and we meet Luke, his son, his grandson.
His grandson.
Nice kid, tall, good-looking boy. And it was Bobby Shepard's sister. She was driving the golf cart to take me down there, and she said, "Luke, this is Ed Yost. He knew your grandpa when he first came over from Africa, Johannesburg." He's 22 years old then, your grandpa. So the kid jumps in the golf cart. We all ride up to where Gary Player's sitting in the car. It was dark. His passenger side. And Luke, the grandson, says to Gary, "This man, me, knew you when you were in Flowertown, 22 years old, just 22, when George Fazio brought you over here." And he's shaking my hand. He says, "Yeah. And I used to get you milkshakes at the Flowertown Diner. Yeah. And then we built a little gym thing for you. Yeah." He squeezed me all the time.
Getting the handshakes getting a little tighter, Ed?
Tighter.
That's a great, and that's almost
true story.
So you hadn't seen Gary Player in like 60 years, and you took him down memory lane to talk about his days here at Flowertown. You got a hat here that says George Fazio, Palmetto Dunes. I believe it's in Hilton Head. There's the logo for the state of South Carolina. But George was quite a guy. You're quite a guy, and both of you is part of the long history here at Flowertown Country Club. 92 and still telling stories about Gary Player at Flowertown Country Club. Thank you. And Skip back. All right, we'll be back. More of Inside Golf coming up in just a moment.
If you looked in his car, there was just barely enough room for the driver to get in. The seats were just covered with papers, scorecards, bowling pins.
Welcome back. Inside Golf Now presents its Teed Off panel. We're at the beautiful Bluestone Country Club located in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania. And it's a great spot to have for a private event. You can have private dining rooms to accommodate groups of all sizes here at Bluestone, a variety of newly renovated, beautiful indoor and outdoor spaces. Personal event coordinators will help you plan your event. Do it at Bluestone Country Club. All right, joining us today on Teed Off from myphillygolf.com, Mr. Joe Logan.
Good to be here.
From the Philadelphia Inquirer, he writes about golf, college basketball, and football, Joe Giuliano.
Harry.
And Philadelphia PGA professional, longtime friend of the show, and author himself, Mr. Bob Shepard.
Good to see you, Harry.
All right.
There's my book.
There's your book.
Dormy.
And he's got 5 more coming out.
5 more coming out.
That's for another. That's for another 5 shows.
Get your library
We're going to talk today about the characters in the game, and I don't necessarily mean just players, Joe. I'm talking about people you have met, and I don't know how long you've been covering golf.
Since Moses was a baby, I don't know.
Okay, we get it. Long time. In any event, you've probably met some real characters, maybe fellow writers, maybe caddies, obviously players, but can you tick off a couple for us?
Somebody that comes to mind immediately that we all would know is David Faraday, who has been able to combine his battles with alcohol, with his battles with depression, and his sense of humor into a very remarkable career on television and in golf.
I know. He's a Ryder Cupper, and now he is one of the most famous golf analysts, has his own show on the Golf Channel. And a pretty good interviewer, by the way.
He is. One other that immediately comes to mind, who Joe will know, is Doc Giffen, who is Arnold Palmer's, not valet, what would he be, his PR guy?
His personal representative.
Personal representative, who is one of the nicest guys. He's an old Pittsburgh golf writer who's been with Arnold for about 1,000 years. Nicest guy. Returns your every phone call, every email, answers every question. Just a great representative for the game.
That was the great thing about, knowing the guy who knows Arnold Palmer. Whenever you wanted to talk to him, you just called Doc. Doc would call you right back and say, when do you want him?
Really?
And if Arnold had the time, there he was. Stand by for Arnold. Sure. Hi, Arnold.
How about somebody else?
Oh, well, you mentioned guys in the media, sports writers. Fred Byrod covered golf in this city for longer
back
than
to the
Moses
40s.
was a baby. Right? and the other one, a freelancer that we employed for about 40 years, was Mayor Branchain, who, if you looked in his car, there was just barely enough room for the driver to get in. The seats were just covered with papers, scorecards,
bowling pins.
Oh yeah, everything. Yeah, just the whole kid and
I
caboodle.
remember Mayor. He was about
so
big
and very soft-spoken.
Very
soft-spoken.
Yeah, but he always used to be at the events, and Fred Byrod used to like hold court. He was like, I guess, one of the deans, wasn't he, of national golf? Yeah.
Well, Mayor was so popular, though, that the Women's Golf Association of Philadelphia actually has a golf tournament for the Branchain Cup.
Really? I can't tell you how many people over the years would say to me, "You work at the Inquirer. Do you know Mayor? Did you know Mayor?" I go, "Yeah, I did."
There you go. How about you, Shep?
Well, you know, you go back in time. The old caddies were the characters. They were the best, I think. There was a fellow named Titanic Thompson. People don't even know about today. He was a spectacular gambler. Then you had all the caddies. The caddy that hits my mind the best is a guy named, let me think of his name now. He used to pick up the balls. He had one leg shorter than the other, and he had shoes with big soles on the bottom, with a lift in the bottom. And they used to act like an alligator mouth when he'd walk. And he used to get out with his guys, and he'd scoop the balls up out of the rough into his shoe. And of course, the balls in those days were dear, you know, and he got away with it his whole career. Everybody knew he was doing it, but it was so creative, they just let him go. And
I thought you would have come up with maybe a famous character type at a club, maybe in the locker room or a locker room attendant. You've met a few of them.
Moon down at Atlantic City Country Club was great. Baird over at North Hills, when I was a kid over there,
Mr. Baird.
Mr. Baird. He
sent, I think, 2 or 3 children to college just on the money he made in the locker room
right.
at North Hills.
The fellow at Cedarbrook Country Club, his name escapes me right now, but when he had a whole house full of cats, and he never spent any of his tip money. And when he died, they had to actually disassemble the house because he had money in all the wall boards, and it was a total.
You fellas mentioned Doc, who was with Arnold all the time, primarily handling his public relations or whatever. But of course, we've all met, I'm sure you guys have, he's been on the show too, Howdy Giles, who was Arnold's personal dentist out of Wilmington and personal photographer. He has his own book with Arnold, about Arnold. It's called The King and I. And Arnold used to say, actually, it should be me and the king, meaning him and Howdy, because a lot of people just thought Howdy was a celebrity in his own right.
Yeah. You know, a local guy who immediately comes to mind, I should have mentioned him earlier, the great golf writer and historian Jim Finnegan, who died about a year or 2 ago. What an amazing guy. I remember the first time I ever met him, he had just finished writing the history of GAP, the Golf Association, and he told me he'd been working on the book for 5 years, and I thought, who works on a book for 5 years? How do you do that? And when the thing finally came out, I thought, how did he write that in only 5 years?
Yeah, right.
The thing is, all his notes were longhand on legal paper. He didn't type anything down. It was just he typed the actual final product or draft with notes this high.
Should I say he was not computer literate?
It was not, but he was the nicest guy you ever want to meet, and Joe would agree with me.
And forgotten more about golf than I'll ever know.
Scotland, if you said you're from Philadelphia, oh, do you know Mr. Finnegan?
Absolutely.
You know,
You're right, Bob.
He was a gem.
And I'm sure our viewers have their own lengthy list of great golf characters. We just mentioned a few that are on ours. Thanks for joining us for Teed Off. Inside Golf continues with more in a moment. Located in Bluebell, just a short drive from Plymouth Meeting, Bluestone Country Club offers a setting that's close at hand but feels like a world away. Bluestone offers a championship caliber golf course, practice facilities including a large driving range, separate chipping and putting areas, and a staff of PGA professionals. At the Country House at Bluestone, you'll find excellent food, superb service, and an outstanding setting. Their expert staff will assist in planning your next event, whether it's a wedding or simply a luncheon, dinner, or cocktail party. Check out Bluestone's variety of membership options. Much more than a golf course, Bluestone is a community. Hey viewers of Inside Golf, have you heard about Jersey Man and Philly Man magazine? Published by ex-Eagles and Philadelphia Stars tight end Ken Dunnick, these magazines offer the very best in content on subjects of interest to men. Writers include Glenn McNall, Bill Line, and George Anastasia. And you can increase your business by attending our monthly private parties as an advertiser. Call 856-912-4007 or email ken@jerseymanmagazine.com for more information.
Along with being stewards of the game of golf, your local PGA professional wears many hats.
We are teachers. We are players.
We are managers.
We are merchandisers.
And community leaders.
But we all wear one badge.
PGA professionals are well-trained experts who work hard to share the joy of golf with our neighbors for over 90 years. To find your local PGA professional, visit phillypga.com. Brought to you by the Philadelphia section of the PGA.
We are the experts in the game and business of golf.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf. You know, you got a little brief look at Bluestone Country Club in Bluebell, Pennsylvania, where we did our Teed Off panel segment this week. Well, next week we'll take a look at the golf course and what they've done under new ownership at Bluestone. Something else, you know, I want to say, we really get a kick out of hearing back from you people, me personally, wherever I am, whether it's down the shore playing golf or up in the Philadelphia suburbs, maybe just a wah-wah. People come up and say, hey, really enjoy the show. And we're glad every week we can make that a little bit of a special moment if you like the game of golf here in Philadelphia. I'm Harry Donahue. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, don't pick up. Keep the comments coming. See you next week on Inside Golf. Inside Golf, now celebrating its 20th season, is presented by Destination Montco Golf. 54 courses, 300,000 yards. Check them out at montcogolf.com. By the First Tee of Philadelphia. The First Tee helps young men and women become better golfers, but most important, better people. Get involved. Visit thefirstteephiladelphia.org. By the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, celebrating amateur golf since 1897. By Jersey Man Magazine, it's a Jersey way of life. And by Philly Man Magazine, bringing it to Broad Street. And by Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia Section PGA, experts in the game and business of golf. Take time to thank your local PGA golf professional.